values. A lot of people speak about them, but seems like the world is full of hypocrites more than they're full of people that are abiding by the values that they set. Integrity and doing the right thing is probably the most important value that any of us can embody. Throughout the military, my time in the military, and even as a young age, even as a young kid, whenever I didn't do the right thing, life got hard. Doing the right thing it's crazy that it even has to be taught that we should do it. But we live in a world full of greed, people fighting, power. I feel very fortunate, that I was taught the value of doing the right thing and integrity at a young age. If you guys never been on a bear hunt, it's a crazy experience, I grew up in Northern California, and at the time it was legal to hunt black bear with dogs. And my dad, he was a bear hunter. He actually left. He was born in Oakland, California, and he left the city because he wanted to be away from all, probably of what I'm living right now here in Florida. It's fast paced. Some places it's kind of slimy. You don't really know who to trust. A lot of it here in Florida is smoke and mirrors. There is some good parts to it, don't get me wrong. But everybody here is trying to keep pace with one another and try to get on top and beat each other in this game of business and life. I've got nothing to prove, and I think that that's my tactical advantage. But bear hunting was something that my dad started in Northern California. Him and my mom have been together since they were 15 years old. And he left the city to get away from it all. He actually named me after the movie Jeremiah Johnson. If you guys have never seen that movie, it's about pretty much a guy that does the same thing. Little man's coming over here. But basically it's a city slicker type guy that goes off to the woods, if I remember, my memory serves me correctly. And anyways, Jeremiah Johnson just wants to live off the land. And so my dad wanted to do the same thing, and so he did. He was a carpenter. He worked for the road department when I was young. He worked for the county and for the state. He had a landscaping business. My dad was always a guy that could hustle and get shit done. I remember when I was a kid, when he started hunting. When he was younger, he hunted pheasant. And he would be out there. His dad wasn't really around, so he spent a lot of time, 15, 16, 17 years old, kind of running amok, just hunting, living off the land, and doing what he could, being scrappy. And he ended up settling down in Northern California, and him and my mom raised me and my 3 brothers. It was a very unique lifestyle. We had a single family home, and there was 3 of them that we moved into in that town. The first one was a little tiny greenhouse. It wasn't too well taken care of, and then we upgraded to a white house, single family. It had a yard, a few bedrooms, and that was at the house where my dad started hunting. And really, he started hunting because we lived in this little town. The nearest grocery store was 2 hours away. And he started hunting because it cost us too much money to drive to the store get groceries, and most of which, if you were to get fruits and vegetables and stuff like that, we couldn't afford to go every single week. We'd go once a month. And so we had a garden, and we hunted to basically take care of the household food so we didn't have to go to the store all the time. And it was less expensive. So bear hunting is a trip. Hunting is a trip because you actually, you learn a lot about life and a lot about values through hunting. I never enjoyed killing anything, but we had a rule in the household: whatever we killed, we ate. That was true for squirrel. It was true for quail. It was true for bear. And so my dad, as he started raising us up in Northern California, it was a little town called Trinity Center. You guys could check it out online, in the Trinity Alps. He started bear hunting, and we used to do it with dogs. And there's a lot of similarities between bear hunting and the military. You get up early. The night before, you're going to prep all your men, weapons, and equipment. You're going to make sure that you got your rig ready to go, your vehicle. You're going to make sure that the setup of the vehicle is perfect. You're going to make sure that you got your guns, your ammo. You're going to make sure you got your radios set. You're going to make sure you got food set out. It's the same stuff as the military, like getting ready to go on a convoy. It was the same shit. And we would wake up. He'd wake me up at about 3 o'clock in the morning. And I started tagging along with him hunting at a young age. 10 years old, 11 years old, 12 years old. And even before that, I remember doing duck hunting with him at like 7 years old. But big game, I didn't really start doing big game hunting with him until I think I was probably 11 or something like that. And I remember one of the first hunts that I went on, it was a bear hunt with him. I wasn't even strong enough to hold a rifle. We got a bear up a tree. It was when we first started learning about bear hunting, and we went with somebody. We're sitting down at the base of this tree, and there's a giant black bear up there. My dad hands me a slingshot, and he gave me the slingshot to shoot up some rocks at the bear and pretend like I was going to take him out. So he was training me. And in the summertime, we used to prepare for bear season. Me and my brothers we'd have a bear hide that we would take out into the lake, and we would wrap a rope around it, and we'd drag it through the woods and then throw it up into a tree. And then my dad would let the dogs out to go find the bear hide. We would train our dogs in the summer. So bear hunting and hunting was like a year thing. It was a seasonal thing in the winter, but we would train the dogs in different ways throughout the rest of the year. And summer was a prime time for it was almost like an NFL, camp, right? Or like a fight camp. But either way, I remember one hunt that we went on, and my dad actually took some people out. He got so good that when visitors came into town and they started asking questions about hunting, the locals pointed the visitors to my dad. They said, hey, he could take you out. Now, my dad didn't have a license for bear hunting. He was just a scrappy guy, a resourceful guy, and he said, listen, I'm not going to charge you. I'll just do it for some favors. So he kind of found a loophole so that he could run his little business without being legit. And but we were hurting for money at the time. I remember money was always a tight subject in the house. We were always kind of fighting over it. And I remember being very, very close a lot of times where we just didn't have food, or my parents always found a way to provide, don't get me wrong, but I remember the conversations in the house and then being stressed about money all the time. And so I knew they were hurting financially. There's a couple of times where the neighbors brought us over some food, but my parents always did a great job giving us the basic needs, and they would always work harder to give us what we needed. So hunting, we went out hunting. And remember, my dad woke me up. We're with this crew. So a crew comes into town, some visitors. They want to go bear hunting with my dad. And we link up with them. We get ready to go. We go to sleep, we link up with them, and then the next day we're going to take off and go do the hunt. It's like a Saturday. Well, my dad wakes me up at 3 o'clock. I remember I would just be so tired. I would work my way to the truck. I'd get in the truck. I'd get in the back seat. And he had a little like 2-door Nissan that he used to drive around. And I would get in the back, and one of the older kids that was from our hometown, he would be in there as well. And he would take the front seat and I would take the back, and I would sit in that little spot and I would face inward on the vehicle. And I remember the smell of the truck. I remember those early mornings, it being dark out. I remember the smell of his coffee. I remember how dirty the truck was on the inside, but he also had it taken care of. It just had a lot of dirt inside. He said that he used to joke that the dirt was keeping it together. But anyways, we'd head out, we'd go do our hunts, and we'd jump in. We'd have all the dogs in the back of the pickup, and we'd get out there in the woods, and 3 o'clock would turn into 4 o'clock, 4 o'clock would turn into 6 o'clock, and we get out there, and I remember on this hunt, we started patrolling around with the vehicle, and the dogs caught a scent for a bear. And that was a good sign. So we got the dogs out, we put the dogs down, and it turned out to be a fresh scent. Now, most of the time when we went out, we didn't always find a bear right out the gate. Okay, this was one of those rare times. A lot of times we ended up empty-handed. But as we got out there was a fresh scent. There's paw prints on the road, and the dogs were going crazy for the bear. So we have the crew with us. We have my dad with us, and the dogs go crazy, and we end up releasing the dogs on the bear. The long story short is that the bear gets treed. We end up it takes hours for us to find and catch up to the dogs with the bear treed, because the bear keeps jumping from tree to tree. Like, not tree to tree, but tree. It goes for the tree. It gets some rest. It comes down and starts running again. So the bear keeps like leaping, essentially, right? Like going from one tree to the next tree, and after it gets its rest. Anyway, so we end up finally getting to the base of this tree. The dogs are there. The bear's up in the tree, and it's like, oh my gosh! And it's probably 3 o'clock in the afternoon or something like that. Every hunt that you go on, there's a primary shooter. There's somebody that's there to fill their ticket. Somebody that gets priority for the bear. And if they want it, they take it. If they don't, it goes to somebody else. So one of the visitors that was in town, he ends up wanting the bear, but for some reason, I remember this particular hunt, he didn't want to shoot it, but he wanted the bear. And so, no, I take that back. He did want the bear. So this visitor, he ends up taking the bear, and he shoots the bear out of the tree. Well, when the bear falls, this is a couple 100-pound bear, and it hits multiple branches on the way out, and it lands on the ground. I remember when it first started falling down, it actually landed on a branch and got stuck, and my friend shot the branch out underneath the bear, and then the bear fell. So anyways, this bear lands, and when you're going to pack out a bear, you quarter it. You cut it open, you make it a little bit lighter, and then you all put it on your packs and you carry it out. Well, as we cut it open, the guys that we're with, there's certain parts of the bear that are sacred to some cultures. And I remember these guys, they were first or second generation Korean, and they wanted the gallbladder of the bear, which was illegal in Northern California. You couldn't kill a bear and take its gallbladder and use it or sell it. But we were tight on money. And after we killed the bear and we're laying there, my dad cuts the bear open and the gallbladder's sitting right there. And that gallbladder would sell at the time for probably about $3,000, maybe closer to $5,000, which for us, that would be like 6 months of living expenses, maybe even more in some cases, okay? Maybe even longer, maybe even 8 months. So probably closer to 6 months of living expenses, $1,000 a month, probably roughly around there. So anyways, as the bear gets cut open, my dad's looking at this gallbladder, and the visitors come up and they say, they're looking at it. And he's looking at them, he's looking at the gallbladder, and I can't really hear the conversation anymore, but I can tell that my dad is in turmoil. Like, he's having an inner conflict, a moral dilemma. He's trying to figure out if he should sell this thing to the guys or not, do what's illegal or not. And I remember seeing his face. It didn't take long, but he started crying, got choked up. His face went beet red. He reached into the bear, he cut open the gallbladder, cut it out of the bear, grabbed it, and threw it. And when he threw it, tears kind of came down. And I'll never forget that day, because what he chose to do with the gallbladder was to do the right thing. And ever since then, after that bear hunt, he sat me down and he taught me the value of doing the right thing. He said that some things, it doesn't matter how much some things cost, that the weight of them on your soul across life is a price that you don't want to pay. And he taught me the importance of doing the right thing, regardless of how much money was in it. And that lesson of doing the right thing served me well. As I got into the military, it served me well overseas during military missions. It served me well in my career. Whenever I did not listen to myself and do the right thing, life got hard. I actually almost got fired from regiment one time because I didn't do the right thing. But that's a story for another time. You guys, I don't know what each of you guys are going through right now. But doing the right thing is the value that can save you the most pain. It can bring you the most happiness. It'll make you happy with you. And your whole life will open up, and you might have to sacrifice short term. You might not get that quick buck. You might not get that instant gratification. But over time, when you do the right thing, you build confidence and belief in yourself. Do the right thing at all costs. It's the trait of a great leader. Losers don't do the right thing. Losers constantly look for the gray area. They constantly look for the way out, and eventually that shit catches up to them. And so if you're at a crossroads right now, you're trying to figure out what direction to go, always, always, always just do the right thing. I love you guys. Kicking this video off in the evening. I'm going to get these videos to you earlier in the day, but I got yesterday's video out last night, and I figured, hey, let me just go ahead and pump this one out Monday night. That way it gives the other video a chance to get some traction, and then this one doesn't stop you guys from watching that one. So anyways, I decided to stagger it a little bit, but I'm getting better and better at the timing of these. And if you guys like, I've been doing lessons, I've been doing educational videos, and I've been telling stories. So I'd like to know down in the comments, guys, what do you want me to do more of? More stories, more lessons, life lessons, or more education? Educate you on stuff. Let me know down below. But either way, go out and do the right thing. Conquer all.